What's up guys, today we're going to be installing the red 46 skid plate. This one is specifically for the M42, which he has laser etched right here if the camera will focus, which I think is a pretty neat touch. He also has his logo up here. Overall, I am super impressed with this. I mean, the quality of this thing is very thick. I don't have any doubt that this would protect my oil pan, and for anybody with an E30 with an M42, you know that these things have incredibly low oil pans as it is, let alone when you lower these things. So we're going to get started. First things that I've looked at after reviewing the instructions is we are going to have to check up the car, of course, and it looks like we're going to have to remove the bolts on the steering rack, and we're going to have to drill 5 holes in the core support, slip this bracket through, and then the holes that you drilled in the core support are to allow the bolts to go through and then thread into this bracket that is provided with the kit. Alright, so let's get started. So we got the car up in the air, and as you can see, I have the typical oil pan gasket leak. That is definitely on the list of things to do. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to be installing the skid plate. So we have to locate these 2 bolts here, which I will try to get my lighting. So we have this bolt and this bolt, which are part of the steering rack. And then we have to undo the factory skid plate, which mine actually still has. I think what I'm going to end up doing is probably trimming mine, just because I kind of like the splash shield. And I kind of like that it ties into the wheel well and all that stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is modify mine, maybe cut it around this point, just so that this metal skid plate can fit in, and then this one's not in the way. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so a brief overview of what I've done so far. I located the bolts for the steering rack. We have since removed them. There are 2 nuts up at the top. They're not too terrible to get a hold of. From what I've found, at least on my car, looks like the nut is a 16, and the bolt is a 15 millimeter. It looks like the hardware provided by Red 46 is SAE or standard, so I'm going to have to figure out what sizes those are, and I'll come back. Okay, so since I don't have the luxury of a lift, I had to kind of think this through for a bit. So essentially all I've done so far is I've gotten one bolt in. It is loose per the instructions, that way you can move things around, get the other back bolts for the steering rack in. And then you can also line these holes up on the core support. So one thing I did was I took a extra jack stand and had it help me hold this skid plate up while I position the bolts in place. So for any of you that might be installing this on your back in your garage like I am, that is a very helpful thing to do. So next thing I'm going to do is put that other back bolt in. And once that is in, again, I'm not going to snug that up, I'm just going to have it loose, just enough that the skid plate is in position and it holds itself on its own. That way I can mark these holes. At that point, what I'm going to have to do is actually take the skid plate back down, drill these 5 holes out, put that plate up through the top, and then I can reassemble the whole thing. Okay, so we were successfully able to get the skid plate bolted in. I had to stop filming at some point because I was having to do some modifications to my core support. Apparently my car at some point has either bottomed out or has been in a collision at some point, and stuff just wasn't lining up right. So I had to do some modifications that wouldn't otherwise be typical on an installation. But as you can see, it's in. This thing looks absolutely amazing. It's a shame nobody will ever actually see this, but I'll know it's there and it's doing its job protecting the oil pan. So look forward to the next install.